employees in general, or when an employee is sick, let's say, or when an employee is promoted, or when the business is going to expand. So the business should select and recruit suitable employees. Okay, so of course, when an employee is promoted, his job or his vacancy should be filled now by someone else, and this could be done either internally or externally. When I say internal or external, I'm talking about external and internal recruitment. So sometimes the vacancy might be filled internally by inviting existing employees to apply within the business, or sometimes we ask strangers, we can say, or external applicants to apply, and this is what we call external recruitment. So it's clear that choosing someone within the business will save a lot of recruitment cost, and we already know the employee, and this will motivate the workers because they will be promoted. However, we have less applicants. I mean, if we have external recruitment, usually a lot of applicants will be there. However, in internal recruitment, we have a limit in the number of applicants, and sometimes this might create problems or jealousy between workers. Okay, with respect to external recruitment, it's choosing someone outside the business. Usually, this is done by, of course, choosing suitable people out of many applicants. We can recruit or advertise using local newspapers, national newspapers, job centers, recruitment agencies. So, as you can see, it depends on the job. If we need senior people, technical people, office workers, and so on. So a lot of ways to recruit people externally. Nowadays, websites are used mainly to recruit people or to choose the best applicants. So of course we have a wider choice of applicants, but it's really expensive for businesses. They have to pay for recruitment agencies and job centers usually, or let's say magazines, usually they take a lot of money to put ads, journals as well, newspapers as well. So it takes time, and of course you have to pay money for recruiting people externally. Okay, so now usually or in general, department which is called the Human Resources Department is the department responsible for recruiting and selecting people. But of course, a lot of other departments will be helping this department. So, for example, here, let's say business is going to choose an employee, administration department might help, operation department might help. Let's say we need an accountant, so accounting department will help, and so on. So a lot of departments will help the human resources department in their job. Here I list the main responsibilities of a human resources department. As you can see, of course, they are responsible for paying wages and salaries. They are responsible for recruiting people, training them, firing people sometimes. They are responsible for making sure the employees have safety in their job, and all the health and safety, let's say, measures are applied within the business. So human resources department has a lot of responsibilities, and their main role, of course, is recruitment and selection of the best people. Okay, so we'll start with the recruitment process or the stages. Of course, the first one is identifying the vacancy or the job analysis. So here it's the first step of recruitment. So of course, the human resources department and the other department, let's say accounting department, they need an accountant. So the human resources manager with the accounting manager will sit and they talk about the vacancy. So recruiting staff costs money, so a business must only hire people it needs. This is really important to know because each department has its own budget. and of course recruiting people. The second one is writing a job description. When I say job description, it's specifying the role and responsibilities of a worker. Here I have a simple example for a cow van mechanic. As you can see in this job description, I'll find a lot of information about his salary, duties and responsibilities, hours of work, and so on. This is a job description that is prepared after identifying the vacancy. Now we come to person specification or job specification. Don't mix this with the job description, because here it's about the qualifications that will help the business to compare the applicants by using it. So larger businesses, they will write a person specification for a vacancy to identify what they are looking for in applicants. So the human resources manager and accounting manager will set all these. What do we want? For example, the qualifications, his experience, his skills, his attributes, and so on. So all these, of course, will be advertised later on, so that applicants will check and see if they fit, so they apply. Okay, advertising the vacancy can be done by several ways. As I said, usually recruitment agencies, they do the job. We can use a website, job centers, or magazines, newspapers, and many more. Okay, so this is what we should include in the advert. Of course, the name of the organization, the job title, the salary, and some other information. So I'll tell the applicants how they apply, so that they know everything about the job, and then they will apply. Okay, after I advertise, of course, people will start sending their CVs, and they'll start applying. So I have to shortlist the applicants. I mean, now the selection process will begin. At this stage, the employee must look through the applications to select the best ones. So shortlisting will be compiled, and I'll invite them to attend interviews. Okay, so remember that the shortlist is drawn up by using the criteria and person specification. If they have the experience, we want the skills, the qualifications, and so on. So they will be shortlisted, and I call them for an interview. Okay, interviewing the candidates is an opportunity for the company, the employer, to meet potential employees. So, of course, it's a meeting between an employee and a manager, or sometimes more than one manager. So, HR department or other employees, trained employees, will be the interviewers, and the employees or the potential employees will be interviewed. Okay, in the interview, as I said, there will be open questions, and the interview will be face to face. Sometimes it's done via Skype nowadays, or it might be between an employee and a manager, or a group of managers, and this is what we call a panel interview. The questions will be open questions and closed questions. So open questions, ones that cannot be answered with yes or no, and other questions, their answers will be yes or no, of course. So sometimes the applicants, they are required to do some tests. Let's say an accountant is required to do a balance sheet. Let's say engineer is required to draw something using AutoCAD, and so on. Okay, now selecting and appointing the candidates. After interviewing, each candidate is reviewed, and the business selects and appoints the most suitable person. Remember, we have a criteria. Of course, the one with the highest score is then selected. Others, they, of course, they are informed if we don't select them. We just tell them you are not selected. Okay, so here we have the 7 stages, as I said. Now, with respect to the laws, you have to know that a business must treat all the applicants for a job fairly. Of course, they should always have There should be always an equal opportunity for everyone. So it's illegal to discriminate because of their sex, race, disability, and so on. A lot of laws are there to protect workers. Okay, now with respect to ethical and unethical recruitment, as I said, a business must not discriminate against any applicant, so it's unethical and illegal. Of course, many businesses want to be ethical toward applicants by training interviewers to not show any favoritism, or you are not going to, as an employee, you are not going to say to the applicant that no, you are not good, someone else is good. You have to treat them the same way by asking them the same questions. All these questions should be, of course, ethical. Now, why offer training and development? So after we recruit, of course, there should be training. Of course, the efficient work will require the training. So for the business to work efficiently and meet the needs of customers, the staff must keep their knowledge and skills up to date. And this can be done by training and development. Of course, people, they need always to update their skills. If they are new or they are old in the business, they have to always update their skills. Of course, there is just a difference between the training and development. I just know this, it's not mentioned even in the book, but a lot of students, they mix training and development. Remember that they both improve and develop the performance of the staff, but they do so in different ways. So when I say training, I train you, it involves organized occasions for employees to learn or develop their knowledge and skills. And this will help them in their job, like having an ICT training. However, development, it describes times when staff can learn skills or gain knowledge, but that is not necessarily job related. So it's not necessarily to help them in their job. So playing a team sport, for example, working in other departments, all these are called development. So I'm training and developing my employees, and this is what makes my employees good employees and skilled employees. And of course, they will stay within the business for a long period of time. Now, when it comes to training, I have three main trainings. The first one is called induction training. So if you are a new member and you're going to start work, there will be an induction. Induction training will help the employee to learn about the business so they can settle in quickly. That will include a tour of the premises, explain how the business was organized, explaining the maybe mission and vision, the aims and objectives of the business. This is what we call induction training. Now we have two other types of training, and these trainings are ongoing trainings, or we call them ongoing trainings, or the trainings that can be done inside the business or outside the business. So on the job training, the employee will learn in the workplace, not outside the workplace, by shadowing an experienced employee, by learning from him. So many employees will enjoy training on the job because they can see why they need to learn the skills and they are able to practice them. Remember, on the job training is cheaper for businesses. Of course, you are not sending your employees outside and you're not paying money, and it's less disruptive to production. But of course, you have to know something really important. If the employee is going to learn from other employees, sometimes this employee will learn bad habits from him because he is going to work with this experienced employee. The off-the-job training, which is common between businesses, is to train the worker away from the business. It involves attending a course. Sometimes you send him outside the country, or you do online courses, or you join online workshops, let's say. So it will add, of course, to the skills of workers. However, it's really expensive. And remember that the staff are not producing because they are away from the business, but it's really good to train a large number of people and teach them a lot of skills. Okay, this is for training. There is a point in the syllabus that you should know about part-time and full-time workers. Just know this, I didn't see a lot of questions in the past papers. So when I say part-timers, they usually work from between 1 to 30 or 35 hours a week. However, the full-timers, they work more than 35 hours a week. So just know the advantages and disadvantages of part-time workers. Of course, it's clear that if you are a business and you use part-timers, it's more flexible because the hours of work are flexible and you can call them anytime. You can ask them to come at busy times. Let's say a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. You're busy. You have a business and let's say a restaurant, and you have a lot of people coming in. You can call them so they can work at weekends, and they are willing to accept lower pay. Let's say they are university student, but of course they are not well trained and they are not committed to the business. They are not committed because they know that they won't be promoted and they are not part of this business. Okay, just know the difference or the advantages and disadvantages of part-time workers. Now, workforce planning, or how the business reduce the number of employees. So as I said before, that the business should recruit the right people in the right place. Sometimes the business decide to downsize the workforce or reduce the number of employees. A lot of reasons, and this might be important for you to understand that the business might reduce the number of workers if they introduce machines like automation, if the demand of goods and services falls, so no need for employees maybe, or the shop or factory will close, or relocating the factory abroad. This might be a reason why the business might reduce or downsize the workforce. Okay, we have a lot of ways or a lot of, let's say, words here. We have to know the difference between them. So when I say dismissing workers, dismissal, the word dismissal, it's when you tell the employee to leave the job because their work behavior or their the job done is unsatisfactory. They are always late. They, for example, did something wrong in the business, so you dismiss them. However, redundancy is when you ask the employee to leave, not because he did something wrong, but because the job is no longer needed. So there is no fault done. This is the difference between the two. Also, resignation and retirement. Of course, resignation when someone resigns from the business because they found another job, and retirement when they get older. So the worker will stop working because he's, let's say, 64. So this is what I'm talking about now about downsizing. So remember, the reduction of the number of employees can be done in more than one way. Okay, so something important here about dismissal. Remember that the law will protect the workers against unfair dismissal, and the worker has the right to be protected. And there is something called wage protection where the workers should be protected against low payment, so you have to pay them in a fair way. Okay, so to force employees to pay the fair wages, government set legal minimum wage. Legal minimum wage is when you pay workers legal minimum wage or a minimum wage set by the government, so you cannot pay them less than this. Of course, this will help the employers or the employees. This will protect them, and this will encourage them to seek work. And of course, this will prevent employers from exploiting workers. However, the business cost will increase. Some employers will not afford paying workers the legal minimum wage, so they ask them to leave. And of course, the business cost will rise if the employers are not able to afford this, to afford paying minimum wage. And sometimes the prices will increase because the cost of the business will increase. Okay, so that's it for chapter 8. Chapter 8 covers, as I said, 3 main points. Just understand the recruitment process because it's really important. Understand what happens in each process and understand the training and the 3 ways of training, because usually they ask about these, their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, and that's it for chapter 8. So thank you for listening and see you soon in chapter 9.